Alright, YouTube, this is going to be a kind of a fun, let's make fun of some stupid stuff on the internet. Get a little less serious out of here. So I got two videos uh, by Spirit Science we're going to do covering COVID-19. And we're going to laugh at the stupidity of this, but bring up kind of the contradictions between the two videos and what they make claims about COVID-19 one way in this video that are going to differ in the next video. We'll watch, we'll laugh, we'll have a good time.
Coronavirus has the potential to be seen as many different things. Something to fear, a quarantine enforcer, and even a deadly killer. And this is the reality we're collectively experiencing. And as the designers and creators of our collective reality, we must accept that we cannot always control the circumstances that befall us, but we can control how we respond to them. If
we're the creators of this reality, we can change our circumstances. You actually believe that nonsense. But this is a bunch of vacuous word salad, Deepak Chopra style stuff here.
If we were to take a look at COVID-19 from a higher perspective, we might just see a very interesting picture come to form. The coronavirus pandemic is potentially a wake-up call, a huge lesson for us, and even an opportunity for massive change. While the long-term results of the coronavirus pandemic are still yet to be seen, there's no question that it's transforming life on Earth as we know it by bringing to the surface so many conversations that we need to have. Conversations such as wet markets, treatment of life, quarantines, health, hygiene, and collective responsibility. But the thing is, absolutely none of these conversations are the beginning nor the end of the dialogue.
We're gonna get into humans are the virus nonsense, aren't we?
They are all the results and responses to the experience of this pandemic. None of these actually address the higher understanding of the whole thing. We can gain a great deal of insight if we dig into the name itself, coronavirus. Corona directly translates to crown from the Latin. By the nature of the name itself, what we are dealing with here is a crown virus, which it was named for after.
What's a crown virus? I don't even know. I can't even remember science's actual name. What's a crown virus? You'll get it right. And this is the goofy word salad of these kind of woo-woo channels.
Its characteristic crown-like protein spikes. The significance of the name crown here relates distinctly with two important areas of focus, the spiritual crown and the physical crown, both of which relate with the topmost and zenith aspects.
No, none of that. No. The coronavirus, using the Spanish for crown, nope, doesn't mean any of those things, right? It's just the word, the uncreative way that they you tend to name things in science, right? You tend to name things in general, like places and stuff where we live and stuff. Doing prep for RPG Maker stream and stuff that we're gonna do, and then trying to do world building stuff here, just looking through history and development of places and stuff. Very, I don't know, like that Forest Hill or whatever, something like that would be a place, and it would evolve into names that we know it. Yeah.
Of a system. We also see the word corona relating with a certain part of the sun, and we'll look at this soon. In these systems, the word crown generally relates to the organizing leadership of the higher order. In the physical systems, crown—
No, it doesn't. No, none of that at all. Nope. It's just because that the spikes on it look like a crown. That is it. Looks like this bit of the crown here, and so scientists are like, oh, these are crown viruses or coronavirus. That's it, just by the way it looked.
crown was the name for the headdress that was a powerful symbol of authority, and the name symbolically was then essentially given to those in power, like the king or the queen. And while it's not really used by democratic systems today, the word crown essentially still relates with the topmost of a social system. Now, in spiritual systems,
that does not mean that the virus is the top of some system, social, physical, spiritual, or whatever. just, you know, woo nonsense.
We see the word crown being used to describe the Godhead. In both the chakras and the Tree of Life,
Oh boy, if you've not like D-Burn, spirit science has been around for a while, but this is the new age spiritualism spiritualist nonsense that uh gives us things like jelly juice and other things in conspiracy theory things here. It's nonsense, it's words, it's vacuous stuff meant to be sound profound. Right?
the topmost sphere is called the crown. These systems describe that this important point on the human body, the top of the head, is the place through which we connect with a higher understanding, which allows us to develop greater wisdom and the inner knowing that all things are connected, no matter how separate and isolated things may appear. This is especially interesting given that isolation becomes one of our most valuable tools in combating the spread of the virus. The ancient wisdom describes that when the crown
Again, isolation has nothing to do with this virus specifically, right? We could have a virus that isn't named coronavirus that could be as infectious and stuff as coronavirus is, and that we need to isolate, social distance, lockdowns, and stuff like that. And so this whole argument falls apart around the coronavirus. Just putting up through it, just woo nonsense.
crown is blocked, or we are unable to connect with the higher expression of our interconnected nature, we create a reality of duality consciousness and live our lives as if everything is separate. And this is one hidden lesson that we find with COVID-19. What we believe to be true today is that the virus itself probably began within wet markets in Wuhan. Now, there are some theories suggesting alternatives to this, but for now, as this is the leading theory, let's continue with this idea. These are filthy environments for selling both live and dead animals. And these environments are places that bacteria and viruses can easily mutate and spread. It should come as no surprise when you keep animals jammed into tight cages, experiencing terrible suffering while other animal carcasses lay strewn about everywhere. It's only logical that this becomes a breeding ground for bacteria and diseases to jump about from host to host and eventually mutate its way into the very people who frequent these environments. Take a moment to consider just how much fear and anxiety is being created by those animals in the wet markets.
It's not the fear and anxiety that's creating the virus or causing the mutations. Sorry about that. The rest of the this is being ridiculously noisy tonight. But yeah, it's not the fear and anxiety that's going to put like, oh no, we mistreat the animals and therefore the virus comes off there. And it's like, no, that's not there. Now you're right about the scientific parts, like all the animals being together and stuff like that. And this is why, the swine flu pandemic back in, what was it, 2009, originated from meat factories, right? So this is what's going to come.
It's no surprise that something negative has come out of it. If we really knew that we were interconnected with all of life,
That's not how viruses work, science.
we would most certainly treat these animals with significantly greater respect and create environments that would be clean and healthy for everyone and everything. Further, another lesson that comes from this shift to unity consciousness is the knowing that it's not exclusive to Wuhan, and it's not appropriate to point the finger at anyone but ourselves. In today's world, chickens, cows, pigs, fish, and basically every kind of animal that we actively use for mass livestock are treated horribly with incredibly poor living conditions. We just published a movie called Healing Your Body with
And we don't have chicken flu. I don't think avian flu. Look that up. But as far as I know, there's been no jump from chickens, right? So there's a hole in your hypothesis here, theory. It's falls flat, falls apart.
food, and I especially recommend watching it if you want to know the truth about where your food comes from. This conversation then fractals into nearly every aspect of our lives. How do we treat ourselves? How do we treat each other? How do we treat the environment? We are now seeing reports that global smog levels are at a collective all-time low, that nature is actually healing itself for every day that humans stay inside, demonstrating both the living vibrance and the power of nature. and how we actively kill nature through the systems and technologies that we use to live our lives. Recently, there was even an article that the
Oh, we're getting into eco-fascism here.
canals of Venice are not only running clear water, but also have fish swimming through them for the first time in 60 years. Think about this for a moment. Our collective pandemic, which has caused us into isolation, has allowed for nature to begin to thrive day by day. That's kind of remarkable, but what's to stop us?
Yeah, it's not very much. Those things. Yep, we definitely have to do more. Different strategies that come through to change how we generate power and then stuff that way, right? But that's not the stuff he's coming to in this video.
From going right back to our old ways the moment the pandemic ends. We really have to take this seriously, because if we only focus on ourselves and our survival during this pandemic and not everything else, like the effects of our civilization on the world, well, I'm concerned that there will only be more suffering to come until we learn these lessons. Now, as mentioned earlier, we also
But then our way of life has alleviated a bunch of suffering as well too, right? That, I don't know, this is the really crazy environmentalist stuff that want to go back, dying from diseases that are today, easily treatable and taken care of. But we may be getting that lesson the hard way too from the fucking anti-vaxxers, right?
also see that corona not only translates to crown, but is also the name for a particular aspect of the sun. Specifically, the sun's corona is an aura of plasma that surrounds the sun and other stars and extends millions of kilometers into outer space and is most easily seen during a total solar eclipse. Now, speaking of the sun,
which, just because those two names are together, they have no connection, none whatsoever. Oh man.
is essentially the crown of our solar system. In a long, almost forgotten past, the sun was seen as the essential soul, the visible God in the heavens, and a demonstration of the power of the supreme oneness. You might even be familiar that long ago, the sun was given the name Sol, essentially meaning sun personified. Regarding the sun's corona,
That's not what soul means, right? That's just sun in a different language. Let's look that up quick. Sick. Oh, it's just the their version of the sun god, the Roman. That's equivalent to going to be just like taking Ra or Apollo and Helios, right? So I mean, it'd just be a sun god, and that's just how we the Romans referred to their particular version of the sun god.
we see that it is at the outer edge of the sun itself, just like how the tree of life describes that the crown, called Keter, resides at the outermost edge, containing all of the other spheres within it. So too, as with us, the crown chakra relates with the farthest point on our auric field, the place from which our own personal energy interacts with the energy of the rest of the cosmos. So the fact that the sun has a corona, matching the name with this virus, might extend our imaginations to conceive of a higher spiritual lesson here.
No higher spiritual lesson. No, none at all. um, just names, right, for certain things, right? And most awfully, just because the corona and stuff here on the outside, that's this looks like a crown, right? In the same way, it looks like some other object, right? That's how we name things.
Perhaps in some way, we can begin to see ourselves as more interconnected with the higher order of the cosmos. It seems as though the lesson here is that COVID-19 is a result of our own lack of harmony. So let's talk a bit about this from a more practical level for all of us. There is so much fear around this virus.
I mean, it isn't. It's basically just to meet our food needs, having all these animals closely together, right? Contact with humans, right? You work in a meat packing plant, or not necessarily a meat packing plant, but in a meat factory, um, and you're in constant contacts with the animals and stuff in the slaughterhouse and stuff there, you're at higher risk of getting swine flu. And if you don't work in those, right? It's just how how viruses work, how these transmissions work, and stuff like that. Nothing beyond that.
And I get it. The possibility of imminent death can be scary. However, the fear itself is very quick to block us from recognizing that there's so much we can do about this just on our own. I think it might be valuable to see that, just like COVID-19, our fear itself is also a virus, and one that spreads even faster than coronavirus. What's worse, they go hand in hand. When we are afraid, steeped in anxiety and panic, our bodies release cortisol, the stress hormone. Too much cortisol and it rapidly breaks down vitamin C, which lowers our immune systems. In addition to being more at risk from coronavirus, this also can lead to rapid weight changes, skin that bruises easily, muscle weakness, diabetes, and many other health problems. All of this just from living in panic and fear. If we can recognize this quickly, COVID-19 provides all of us with a great opportunity, a time for us to use this period of isolation as a point of introspection, of self-discovery, of learning and evolving, so that when the virus is gone, we can emerge from our homes as stronger, wiser, and more capable than ever before. Perhaps we can even collectively learn some big lessons.
So none of this is from the virus, right? And this is no hidden truth behind the virus, right? I imagine there are going to be some social norms and stuff that are going to change because of the lockdowns, right? But we'd have to be locked down a lot longer than we already have been for some of those social norms to drastically change, right? I'll be a little more careful with shaking hands and stuff in public now, once the lockdowns and stuff are over, to prevent disease spread there. So maybe handshakes go away, right? We develop something else where we're not touching each other, spreading the diseases.
No more mistreatment of.
But then again, we might be like some of the idiot protesters that are trying to end the lockdown, that give a shit about doing distancing, wearing the mask, or any of the stuff to help stop the spread, right? They're going to go about their day and spread it all over the place. So maybe handshakes don't go away. Well, we'll see what changes about it, but it's not going to be anything crazy.
Animals. Let's take action about these smog levels. Let's take better care of our world. As mentioned, this is a great opportunity.
Again, I like that, but that's not going to come from coronavirus pandemic, right? It's going to have to come from, for the most part, government regulation, I think. Get business to go that way. I know there's going to be like the socialists, the anarchists, the communists, stuff that want to say, no, we got to do away with capitalism altogether to get rid of that stuff. That's going to be one area where I disagree. I don't think those are going to be any better at fixing the problem than what we can do within capitalism.
Opportunity, but only if we decide to view it as one. The collective pain and struggle we are facing can be a great motivator for us all. And I know that for many, it already is. But if the majority of people still do nothing, if we all just sit inside in our fear and wait for the virus to disappear, we miss out on the opportunity to ride this wave of healing and regeneration that the planet is doing while we're all staying inside. So for now, I want to share a few things to support you in creating a healthy immune system. It should be known that a healthy immune system won't stop you from getting the virus. So of course, wash your hands and stay inside. However, there are ways to keep your
All right, so that bit, good advice, good share it. Spirit science.
immune system functioning optimally, which can help to keep you healthy and give you a sense of control in an uncertain time. And just to be clear, the intention of this list is to provide support and is not intended to be given as medical advice. First,
Nice little disclaimer there. Protect your ass legally.
meditation, or simply practice taking some time to calm yourself down and then stay calm. Not only will this help your immunity, it will also help you make better choices. And instead of reacting inappropriately to panic and fear, it will empower you to respond with responsibility and maturity to what circumstances befall you. Second, pay attention to your diet and try eating things that will help your body be more alkaline, such as raw plant-based foods, drinking lemon water, or eating things rich in vitamin C. Studies have suggested that having a more alkaline bodily pH will support you in fighting disease. Again, we recently published the Healing Your Body with Food movie if you want to go deeper on this subject. Third, I recommend breath work. This is essentially a practice of deep, purposeful breathing, kind of like an active meditation that energizes your body, gets your blood flowing, and creates lasting benefits in a number of ways. Specifically, I recommend the Wim Hof breathing technique, which has been demonstrated to boost your immune system. Fourth, scientific studies have found that taking a cold shower increases the amount of white blood cells in your body. So taking cold showers are also something that you can do. Finally, if you're able to, exercise.
So I don't have any of the studies to go through to, you know, if these need to be debunked or not. So just I like there. So I think that about does it to the video. This video, we're gonna get to part 2, which gets even wilder as some of the COVID-19 woo stuff. Let's pull that up. Set up.
It's not hard to find people who laugh at astrology, but the advent of the coronavirus pandemic actually stands as a testament to a greater understanding of how the cycles of our universe work. In this
No, it doesn't. Not at all.
video, you're going to discover how COVID-19 is actually a part of a much bigger picture by looking at the cosmic cycles that circles above and beyond our heads. Even if you think astrology is hogwash, please watch on and see if your understanding changes by the end.
I can tell you right now, my quote unquote understanding isn't going to change by the end, right? Position of the planets has nothing to do with the disease stuff here on Earth.
In astrology, there's something called a conjunction, which is any time that two planets line up with each other in the sky, which is said to strengthen the energies of the two. Along with normal conjunctions, there are also great conjunctions, which happen between the outer planets, Jupiter and beyond. 2020 is a year of several great conjunctions, and today I'd like to discuss one in particular, Jupiter-Pluto, which is what's happening right now. Jupiter, by its nature, is said to bring expansiveness.
So, in the article that Spirit Science was April 14th, I think, or April 4th. One of those two attains there. And so, not the cause for the coronavirus outbreak, because there was already a global pandemic well before this event. So your whole theory, your whole position here is bunk. We'll go through it here.
And Pluto brings about transformative change, death and rebirth. And also, it makes big things small and small things big. Curiously, when we look at the history of Pluto-Jupiter conjunctions, we see this recurring theme of extreme magnification. I'm going to take you through a few key dates in time to show you what I mean. Just so you know, every single date we discuss aligns with a Pluto-Jupiter conjunction. And really quick, before I begin, I just want to thank Patrick Watson and the Astro Twins for their work in compiling this information. Okay, here we go. In 1571, Johannes Kepler was born, a man who devoted his life to the stars and whose insights would profoundly broaden humanity's views of the skies. Though it's interesting because even though today he's considered a revolutionary scientist, to Kepler, astrology and astronomy were completely interweaved as one unified system. In 1596, Kepler published.
So just a year doesn't line up with these conjunctions if you read the thing, right? So unless to make your argument or theory even possible, like even remotely probable that these things are doing anything, you'd want these events on dates that these alignments occur, right? And if they're not, that's not, you know, you can't point anything there to. Obviously, even if that was the case, it'd just be coincidence and it'd be cherry picking certain events, right? Which is what they tend to do. Pick out we can find enough of these things here, but we'll find maybe worse plagues or worse things, situations where this isn't a case. Well, your theory's bunk, right? Model is bunk and destroyed.
Published the Mysterium Cosmographicum, and in 1608 he wrote Somnium and invented the Keplerian telescope. And in 1620 Kepler completed his 3 laws of planetary motion, the work that would be tremendously influential for modern astronomy, and work that even inspired Isaac Newton to build off of when scientifically describing motion and gravitation. Now, while all of this was happening, in 1590 we see a Jupiter-Pluto opposition, where they are across from each other in the sky, and we have the invention of the compound microscope and the first telescope.
Uh-oh. I thought we were talking about the conjunctions when they're lined up, right? So now you're going to something different, right? So this is an evidence for your conjunction theory. And with that being the case, everything else that you say lined up with a conjunction isn't going to support this new theory, opposition. Nonsense. This is the crazy woo of astrology that's just dumb that people devote their time to this.
Although the first patent wasn't filed until a bit later. Continuing in this, in 1623, Antony van Leeuwenhoek, the father of microscopy, was born. And like Kepler, his scientific method was bound hand in hand with his spiritual.
Again, you have an opposition with the development of microscope. Now you're going back to the conjunction, trying to tie things that don't fit together, right? This isn't a working model of anything. A bunch of woo.
Faith. He became the first person to observe microscopic life in 1657, another Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. In 1663, Robert Hooke popularized microscopic images. In 1838, scientists Schleiden and Schwann formulated cell theory, the idea that all living organisms are composed of cells, a basic unit of life. In 1630, we saw the invention of the electron microscope. In 1894, we saw the birth of Lemaitre, the man who invented the Big Bang theory, the idea that everything in existence came from an infinitely small primeval atom, which he proposed in 19.
No, not an atom. Right? Atoms can't exist in the singularity.
1930, during another conjunction. Oh, this is a fun one. In 1894, the Lowell Observatory opened. In 1906, Clyde Tombaugh was born, and
again, none of this connects to anything for why the astrology is why the coronavirus is happening. Just a bunch of random dates, and not even dates, just years. Things were invented, right? That don't necessarily line up with the conjunctions or oppositions.
And in 1930, Pluto was discovered by Clyde Tombaugh at the Lowell Observatory. Ha! In 1968, we saw the moon landing and the dawn of space telescopes. In 1981, the Hubble telescope began construction, and in 1994, the Hubble telescope.
And how much do you want to bet that these planetary locations that they're citing aren't even right in the first place, right? That's one other fact that I shouldn't say fact, but that's one other option in here too, that they're just trying to fit things here, and these things aren't necessarily the case. So there's a lot of astrology that doesn't line up. So like the astrological signs don't actually align to the dates that people sign. They've moved sky, for example. So yeah, it's a bunch of nonsense.
Produced the first images of cosmic marvels, including the famous pillars of creation. And fairly recently, in 2007, we saw that the New Horizons probe got a gravity assist from Jupiter on the way to Pluto. Literally the most meta transit imaginable.
No, like not at all. Like it would have to pass a couple other planets between Jupiter and Pluto. So no, it wasn't an assist to Pluto. It was an assist to the next planets in the line.
So with all of this in mind, if we look at the pandemics of history, we also see that many of them line up with a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. In 1918,
None of that mattered to any kind of argument put forward. It's just a bunch of facts. This is how they sell you on this woo.
The flu pandemic happened while Jupiter and Pluto were in Cancer. In 1981, the HIV outbreak.
Hold on. I have no idea about the terms necessarily, but is Cancer different than conjunction, right? And if you're going to introduce these different conjunctions and different signs to argue for it, it better be the same across the board. Because if it's not, then it's, you have got no point. And again, these alignments happen on certain days. So unless the flu took off on that specific day, you have not even like Matt's nut hair of a shred of evidence for it to position your theory.
Break happened while Jupiter and Pluto were in Libra. The Russian plague of 1771 took place while Jupiter and Pluto were in Capricorn, and the Black Death of the 14th century happened when Jupiter and Pluto were in Aries. And with all of this awareness, it actually starts to make sense that we're experiencing the coronavirus pandemic during a Jupiter-Pluto transit.
Again, the pandemic occurred before this alignment, right? So this alignment is not responsible for the pandemic, right? I mean, no planetary alignments would be responsible for pandemics, right? It's just not how these things work.
But what do all of these alignments mean? Do the planets rule our existence? Are we forever subject to the wheels of karmic fate from beyond our world? Well, no, not really. You see, astrology is a language.
Well, then your whole theory falls apart then, right? It's completely useless.
Much like we use English and Spanish or other languages to communicate with people, astrology is one of many languages that we can use to communicate with and understand the workings of the cosmos. These conjunctions simply describe energetic alignments, which means that by understanding and reading the language, we can begin to make deeper connections with the subtle forces that move through all of life on Earth. We should consider this particular conjunction to be especially special because it's not just Jupiter. Saturn is also in the mix, which energetically is considered a force of responsibility, systems.
So now we got a whole nother planet, right? So that we can make these arguments with things that don't matter, right? Way to drop this on, 2/3 of the way through the video.
Learning lessons, maturity, banishing old aspects of life no longer needed, and more. One of the great lessons that these planets bring is the transformation of our systems, which include our financial systems and the ways that society connects together and with the world.
No, the planets do none of that stuff.
And so each of us are invited to ask ourselves what it is we might be holding on to and practice letting go in order to make room for something much more amazing. It's as if to say that the subtle energy of this time in life is in extreme magnification mode, making everything bigger and paired with some responsibility and maturity. But depending on where we're at as a species will really determine what emerges from that potential energy. If humanity was in a different state of consciousness, then perhaps this energy would have found its expression in a different way. Who knows? Maybe we would have learned how to send people into the quantum realm, or maybe we discover a black.
The quantum realm isn't a thing, right? That's a comic book idea, or at least in the way that they want to depict it.
Black hole near Saturn and send some people there to try and find a new home. Wait, these ideas sound familiar. Anyway, the point of all of this is to see the nature of cycles. Today we can look out into the world and see a lot of chaos, a lot of fear, a lot of people fighting each other for toilet paper.
Yeah, spirit science.
Certainly, but if we stop for a moment and look beyond, listen to the language of the cosmos and learn from it, we actually open ourselves up to discovering some pretty profound truths about the bigger picture of what's going on. The collective experience of
No, we don't. No. Planets do not teach us that.
COVID-19 is a wake-up call, an opportunity for us to realize that we are living with these greater cycles and movements of celestial forces. And these forces are how we learn to interact with the universe on greater levels. And that if we can make sense of those, we can.
This, I think, was posted 2 weeks ago, I think. I found about, there's a video from about 4 weeks ago. This is like, week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Bosch covered one from 4 weeks ago. And I saw this newer one of the Secret Sauce. So we're doing a YouTube recording of reaction response to both of these.
Can really prepare well for the other changes that are to come. Remember, 2020 has several great conjunctions, and this is only the beginning. And the changes that are initiated through this period of
Again, and the conjunction that you're arguing is the change that caused the coronavirus happened after the virus was a global pandemic. So your theory and model does not fit.
time will last long into the
How's it going, Maddie?
future, forever shaping humanity into a more vibrant species than ever before. If only we can learn the lessons that we're here to learn. So now, how can we take all of this information, this awareness, and make it practical? First, I think it's important that we allow ourselves to relax a bit, especially if we're feeling anxious from the collective fear that is raised over the coronavirus pandemic. By seeing that this isn't unprecedented or out of nowhere, but the closure and reopening of a cosmic cycle that is here to teach us lessons.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty severe pandemic. This isn't something that's normal, right? We don't suffer pandemics yearly, all the time. So, every 5, 10, 15 years, different things and stuff here. But yeah, it doesn't affect everybody the same in different ways and stuff, especially here in the US. With a lot of the potential pandemics that never panned out into because those particular viruses didn't work as well as the coronavirus has, especially with how contagious and the length of time that you can be asymptomatic in a carrier, right? Which is one of the big issues with this virus.
It gives us the space to breathe. Shifting our mindset from doom and gloom to opportunities to learn and grow is one of the best things we can do for ourselves. Second, considering this is a time of magnification, now is a great time to zoom into our own lives or the world around us and learn. So many of us are quarantined at home right
I mean, that's a whole bunch of nothing. Different. Well, that's good. Good that you're relaxing.
now, living in isolation. And yet so many of us have the whole world at our fingertips through our computers. Use the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to evolve your awareness. Learn something new, a new language, a new topic, a new meditation, whatever it is, just learn something new. We must acknowledge that we are the creators of our reality, and collectively, we are the ones who have to deal with the pandemic at hand.
We're creators of our reality. We can get rid of the pandemic. Why can't we do it?
The truth is, this is the first global event in a long time that acts as a unifying point in history as the world sets its focus on the same issue and not in conflict with each other, but against a force that's hard to quantify. This is like a very low impact version of something like a great flood, some narrative that universally affects everyone's lives at the same time. While everyone's attention is focused together, there is a fantastic opportunity to spread love and compassion for each other and the whole world. And if you're someone who really wants to dive into the deep end, I'd like to offer you a download of the new Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean, the Aquarian Edition. This is a new modern edition of the Emerald Tablets, which I was guided to produce after a visionary experience with Thoth himself. And today,
Oh boy. Oh, that's enough goofy cringe for me there.